Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we grapple with a future where we don't have Tears of the Kingdom to look forward to. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. When I was driving over to your place today, I noticed. So when I get into my car,
Yeah.
it pulls up like I go to enter like an address that I want to navigate to,
Right.
and it pulls up. Not most recently visited, but I guess I don't know what the criteria is. First, your address comes up first,
Right.
which makes total sense.
It knows it's Wednesday. It knows you're coming over here.
Right.
Right.
The second address,
Slash, you've been here so many times.
the second address it pulls up
Yeah.
is Islands, the hamburger restaurant
Okay.
in downtown Burbank,
Okay.
which I
We
do frequent,
Right, and we have gone to together several times.
but I don't feel like I don't go to Islands that often.
I don't know if you're ready for this, Mark, but I went to Islands yesterday.
Yes!
I was there at the one in Glendale. I
Uh-huh.
was there yesterday.
What can we say? We love Islands.
We love Islands. Islands, please sponsor this show. Wouldn't that be weird if we were going to call from Islands? It would
That'd be
probably
amazing.
It'd probably be an email because we say it on the
That's right,
on
and
the
we
show.
don't say
Right.
our telephone number.
no, and I never will.
Our one collective telephone
have
number
one
that we
telephone
share.
number.
It's a party line for
That's right.
NCS.
But it's not for the show. It's
No,
just,
no,
it's just a
it's-
phone number that we share.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Here's another thing that we share, the Nintendo Cartridge Society Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society. There you can check out all the fun bonus stuff that we are creating for people who are subscribing at the 8-bit and 16-bit levels, including NCS Detective Club, a mini-series that, Mark, we're coming to the end of.
That's right. In June, it'll be the conclusion of NCS Detective Club, which we are going to be celebrating by talking about Columbo
Mhm.
with frequent guest of the show and friend of the show, Ryan Mogi.
And I would say TV detective savant.
Absolutely.
Ryan's knowledge of this genre is, I would say, unmatched.
Yes, no, it's fitting that she'll be here for the finale because it's like we're climbing the mountain to meet a guru,
Right,
a
right.
mountain of television detectives, and we will reach the summit with Columbo and Ryan.
And we will be able to ask Ryan all of our questions, and no one needs to lose face or anything. It's all gonna be cool. Okay.
So very excited for that, and then in July we'll be kicking off the winner in a three-way tie that Patrick and I broke.
That's right.
Of the topic for the next miniseries where we're going to be covering Broadway musicals. I'm really excited about that too.
Yep, very, very exciting. And thank you to our new patron this week, Eric Blom. Thank you so much, Eric. It is a pleasure to have you on board. And thank you to everyone who is subscribed at any level. We appreciate it tremendously. Something else you can do if you want to get in and have conversations with people about stuff that's happening in the world of Nintendo is you can join our Discord. Email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
and we will send you an invitation. You can join right away. Also, something we want to plug here. We are on an episode of over at Super NPC Radio, the Nintendo 64 Space Solace, which was a redo. They were redrafting the games for the Nintendo 64. Mark and I both participated. We came away with great lists, and it's a fun listen.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go check it out.
All right, Mark, are you ready to peer into the future, a future where we don't have Tears of the Kingdom to look forward to anymore?
Let's do it.
Because in some ways we are beyond the veil at this point, right?
Well, it's so weird because it's true that we don't have Tears It's true that we don't have Tears of the Kingdom to look forward to, and yet as soon as I get home, I'm looking forward to playing Tears
Well,
of the
yes,
Kingdom.
that is true. We don't have the release of Tears of the Kingdom to
Yeah.
look forward to. We are still in the period. Look, this is not us being like, yeah, but what have you done? What are you doing for me next? But like, that is an open question, right?
Right.
Like, and we are, on the precipice of June right now. PlayStation just had their big showcase today, which I found to be pretty underwhelming. But obviously, we are moving into the season of like, what's the second half of the year going to look like for everyone else? Not really had a peep of like a mid-year showcase from Nintendo.
Yeah, there's been all this like weird, a lot of questions about Nintendo's second half of the year because they haven't shown very much.
Right.
Well, in a lot of ways, in some ways they have.
Yeah, sure.
And then when it was rumored that Nintendo wasn't going to be at E3, what was it, like IGN or Game?
Yeah, that's
Spot,
right.
like had reporting that it was because Nintendo. Part of it was because like the second half of Nintendo's year was going to be like didn't have big releases or something. So
Right.
but I mean, a lot of like talk.
I think you could also have like had that read about the first half of the year too, outside of outside of Tears of the Kingdom, outside of the Mario movie, outside of opening the parks. Like the other releases on the Nintendo side are all just them like knocking down dominoes that were already set up. Advance Wars, Metroid Prime, the GBA and Game Boy like virtual consoles.
Well, I mean,
or that we believe had been like in the works for a long time.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
and Fire Emblem Engage too. Like
Right.
there's a lot of evidence to suggest that game was done like a year previous, a year
Right.
before it was released. So like, was Nintendo dropping a lot of stuff because they had holes in the calendar? And are we going to be going into the second half of the year with similar holes in the calendar? And do they have those things to just like drop it? Like, we don't know.
Right.
Or do they just have stuff that they haven't announced yet, and it's like the normal process of stuff? We don't know. But we do want to go through all the things that we do know first. And I think we'll all find together that there's a lot in here.
Yeah.
We know a lot. The first and maybe the most startling thing is that we only know about one new first-party game coming out the rest of this year.
And it's not until July.
It's not till July. It's Pikmin 4 that we're talking about right now. And it's we have seen like a little bit more of it in the most recent Nintendo Direct. You can pre-order it now. You can buy it as part of like the voucher program. It is real in like the like Nintendo sense of the like, we know it's coming out in July. It's not going to get delayed. Are you excited about Pikmin 4? Are you interested in Pikmin 4?
What I have never played more than a couple hours of any Pikmin game. I'm not really that excited for Pikmin 4. What I am interested to see is if I feel like the Pikmin series has I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I feel like it's a multi-million copy selling series, but like 2 million, like 1.5 million.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a solid player, but are we still at the point with Nintendo franchises on Switch where everything kind of gets like a Switch bump? Like is Pikmin 4 going to get, like a Switch bump or no? That's what I'm interested to find out.
I mean, I think it will, and I mean, I think there's also a possibility that there are like parts of this game or like an aspect of this game that we don't know about that could make it like a like sensation of sorts. We knew about Tears of the Kingdom's like building components, but I don't think we really had. I don't think we'd wrapped our head around like, oh yeah, that'll be a shareable thing that people will, that it'll make it like part of the conversation online. I don't think we really grappled with that before the game came out. And is it possible that there's something like that in Pikmin? I don't know.
I'm skeptical.
I'm
but
skeptical
but
as well.
Could be. Absolutely, there totally could be.
I'm trying to look up how many, because I know the Pikmin 3 Deluxe, 2.23 million, which puts it like way down the list of like best-selling first-party games on Switch.
But I think is the best performing Pikmin game.
Yeah, it is. So, but like that drops it below like like Kirby and the Forgotten Land 6.46. Kirby Star Allies is almost 4 million. So like it's in that like half a Kirby range.
Right.
which like isn't the best place to be, but it's also not a. I mean, it's kind of the Metroid space,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point. It's definitely nothing to sniff at. But to have that be the one Nintendo first party game that is
Doesn't seem like
announced,
enough.
and
Yeah.
it's like 6 weeks away. Um,
Yeah.
it just feels weird. It feels
Yeah,
weird.
it feels wholly bizarre. Also, we don't know if there's any going to be any like DLC or like a season pass or whatever for Pikmin 4. Nintendo's been pretty good in recent years about like having that stuff sort of like front and center as part of like the initial marketing. Obviously we knew about like Splatoon or the most recent Fire Emblem game. We knew about their DLC packs from the get-go. But yeah, it's remains to be seen whether there even is going to be DLC for Pikmin 4.
How about you? How are you feeling about Pikmin 4?
I'm very interested. I kind of, like you say, it's like 6-7 weeks away. It's closer to 8 weeks away, right? It's like 2 months. Um, where I'm going to be with Zelda by that point. Like, am I done with Zelda in 2 months? That seems crazy. No way am I going to be done with Zelda in 2 months. But also, like, is this the only first party game we get for the rest of the year? And by October, am I like, all right, I'll pick up Pikmin 4?
Yeah, that part just seems so crazy. Like there has to be at least something.
There has to be something.
Yeah.
But okay, that's the first party game that we know about. But we do have a lot of information, kind of a surprising amount of information about DLC, big, like meaty chunks of DLC coming to 4 different Nintendo games.
And this is kind of, I wouldn't even call it a rumor, but I would say a talking point that exists online is that Nintendo's, the second half of their year is going to rely primarily on DLC.
Sure. I had not seen that as a talking point, but it is evident from just what we see here. So we'll start with Splatoon 3. They launched their the DLC pass earlier this year with the Inkopolis overlay, or not even an overlay, but it's like a different hub world that you can operate from. And then later this year, we don't have a date yet. Is Side Order is going to be coming out, which features new single player content featuring an Octoling. Maybe it's in Inkopolis. It's in black and white. And yeah, no idea when this is going to come out, but they have been just like supporting Splatoon 3 with like the seasons as well. So like there's like this sort of drips and drabs DLC, which is the free stuff, and then this big like Side Order new single player content. You dip in and out of Splatoon 3. What are you thinking about this?
Yeah, man, the Inkopolis expansion seemed like such a weird thing to lead
weird.
with, because it is just like a hub world with no new content.
Yes.
Side, like I was happy when Octo expansion was available as part of Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack.
Yeah.
Because I didn't buy it when it first came out. I liked Splatoon 2 a lot. I would say I've stuck with Splatoon 3 less than I've stuck with Splatoon 2. And
let me ask you, did you ever start the single player of Splatoon 3?
No, I still haven't started it. Yeah. I haven't really, because Splatoon, the original Splatoon was on Wii U, which I didn't own. So I haven't really played Splatoon other than a little bit, when I would visit you. And then Splatoon 2, I really got into, and I did a lot of the single player, but not all of the single player. I have found the single player in Splatoon in the series. I guess I have one example, Splatoon 2, because that and Octo expansion, just like too challenging for what I want to do.
Well, Octo expansion especially is very difficult. And that's my worry with the Side Order thing, which I probably wasn't going to get anyway, because I fell off Splatoon 3 a little bit harder than you did. But like, I enjoyed facing the challenge of the Octo expansion in Splatoon 2, and I think I'm just too dang rusty to like take on that same kind of challenge in Splatoon 3.
The interesting thing with Splatoon 3 for me was that in Splatoon 2, I was never great at Turf War, but I was decent. I could hold my own in Turf War, and so I put more time into Turf War in Splatoon 2 than I've even touched in Splatoon 3, and part of that is because Salmon Run wasn't always available.
You can do Salmon Run
2.
all the time now.
And now whenever I turn on, like for right now, like I haven't even really participated that much in Turf Wars, but when there's like a big run or something, like Salmon Run is the thing that hooks me back, and when I'm in it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is amazing. I just want to play this forever. Um,
Yeah, I wonder if I mean, I'll be very interested to see like what kind of flavor side order is because like there is a world where they could do something that is very salmon runny, but just as like single player content.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Split Man, Splatoon is such an interesting franchise because um Splatoon 2, maybe it was because it was the first like Splatoon game that I really played, but I there was something about Splatoon 2 that worked really great, and Splatoon 3, even from like the idols, didn't capture my imagination the same
Yeah.
way. And like there was just something indescribable about it that for me did not click the same way that Splatoon 2 did.
Well, Splatoon 2 also comes out in like a rarer field, right? Like it came out during the first year of the Switch, so like there wasn't that much else for us to play.
Yeah, that's true.
So like I think that is just a function of like why we would have spent more time in it. I think 3 is more successful than 2, or at least like has more like active players now. Did you catch the announcement of the Square Enix Splatoon ripoff in the PlayStation Direct this
No.
week, or the PlayStation Showcase? It's a game called Foam Stars, and it looks like it takes place in like a casino city, and it's people running around with like foam guns, and they're not squids, they're people, but like you are clearly inking space and like have all of these like you're shooting foam, but like
Uh-huh.
it's different colored foam, and your team has one color, the other team has another color, and it's maybe it's a 4-on-4 or 3-on-3 kind of thing. It just has like real strong we want a piece of that Splatoon pie energy.
How funny. Polygon's headline is Foam Stars is a wild foam party Splatoon-like from Square Enix. Actually, that's nicer than what Google has cached, which is Foam Star is Square Enix's Splatoon clone for
Yeah,
PS4 and
yeah,
PS5.
yeah, yeah. um so weird, but hey, you can't copyright a great idea, right?
Isn't there also, and this has been around for a few years and I think is successful or was very successful, there's like a free to play online game that also feels very
Are you thinking of that
heavily.
like It's not
Yes,
like
it's
Ninjala. It's something like
it's
that.
something like that. Yes, that is
I
what I'm
think
thinking
I
of.
think that mostly looks like Splatoon,
Right.
and is like a squad based thing, but isn't about like inking.
Foam.
Isn't about foam or ink or whatever. It's paint in that one. Totally different. Um, yeah. So anyway, strange. It's obviously a market that like other people are like, hey, we could jump in on that, and it is nice that there are games like that sort of like tactical shooter, or not tactical, but like competitive shooter thing that doesn't have to be super violent.
Yeah,
That it
totally.
can just uh be like a fun.
Man, THQ, if whatever form it exists in now, should bring back the Blob, but instead of one Blob,
Uh-huh.
there's four of them
You could be 4 Deblobs
together.
against 4 other Deblobs.
Paint in the city.
It's an 8 Deblob for all. Yeah. So anything else about Side Order, the expansion for Splatoon 3?
The only thing, the like story, like lore wise in Splatoon that seemed interesting about that teaser trailer that we got is, like what was the final Splatfest for like the first Splatoon game? Like it wasn't deciding between like order and chaos or something like that.
Oh, was it Order and Chaos, or what was that for the second one?
Maybe that was for the second one.
Because the first one, the final Splatfest was Callie versus Marie, and that determined which one of them went missing
right
in Splatoon 2.
Yeah, so I just feel like it seems like it's playing off of the lore a little
Yeah.
bit and potentially will move that forward.
Order versus Chaos, my God. Okay, next let's move on to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. There are 2 different like sets of DLC. The first one coming out in the fall, the next one coming out in the winter. So they're both due out this year. They're called Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, the Teal Mask, and Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, the Indigo Disc. These are already big games, but it seems like, I mean, from my perception of it, that most of the Pokemon people have like moved off of it now, or like are done, have had their Scarlet and Violet experience. I wonder if this gets people back. I just wonder what kind of impact this has, because the set of DLC for Sword and Shield pretty successful, right? You have to assume this will be too,
I
just
would
because it's Pokemon.
I would think so. Scarlet and Violet seem to be better received.
Yep.
And I don't think it's sold more yet than Sword and Shield, but maybe it has.
I mean, it certainly sold more in its first weekend than Sword and Shield did.
Right.
Let's.
So yeah, I think it's fair to say that these will be successful.
Sword and Shield. This is according to the Nintendo Fandom Wiki list of best-selling Nintendo Switch games. Sword and Shield have sold 25.82, and Scarlet and Violet to date have sold 22.1. But Sword and Shield have 3 more years on the market than Scarlet and Violet. So you have to imagine that they'll catch up at some point. Okay. Shall we move on now to actually let's reverse the order that we have in the doc for these next two. So let's move on to Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. There are 2 more sets of DLC that are due out before the end of this year. The first of which is called The Last Spark Hunter, which is supposed to be out this summer. There's a teaser trailer up for it now that released just a couple days ago. I've watched this thing. It's 22 seconds. I've watched it like 5 times, and I have no concept of what it's teasing. I think the Mario gang and the Rabbids gang are like at it again. I don't know. I really don't know. And then the final set of DLC, which is due out late in the year, is like a new adventure. They're sort of touting this one as like the big story-based DLC. So like the Donkey Kong stuff for the first game, this is a new story centering around Rabbid Mario, Rabbid Peach, and Rayman from the Rayman games. And look, any story that's going to be centered around Rabbid Peach, I'm there. And Rabbid Mario.
Remind me, did you end up buying this game?
I did end up buying this game.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got a copy of it. I've not turned it on. And I can't speak to whether I'm going to get into the DLC after after playing the main game, or if I'm ever going to turn on the main game.
Yeah, I was really excited for this. Loved the first game, and then it came out, but we had both decided that we were not going to buy it, and instead we got Persona 5 Royal. Is that right?
I mean, that was a mistake too, because we didn't get very far in that either.
But then I played the demo for this later, and I don't know. It didn't click for me.
Yeah. I'm sure it's good. I mean, I'm sure it's fun, but I feel like that didn't click for me was like sort of the like the market's response to it, right? That people were like, it didn't sell as well as the original, and like, whether that's just because it was lacking like the surprise factor, it wasn't part of like, early Switch excitement, you got to play everything, or what exactly. It just didn't show up in the same way.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. We're still in the middle of this booster course pass.
Oh my gosh. It feels like we're due for another wave any moment now.
Well, okay, so if we look at the history, in the first year in 2022, we got waves on March 18th, August 4th, and December 7th.
Oh wow! So they were pretty spaced out then.
They're pretty spaced out, yeah. 3 of them over the course of the year. We can expect that we got one already this year, March 9th, and there are 2 more due out by the end of the year. I'm guessing since March 9th, 2023 versus the previous year, March 18th, I'm guessing that means that the other dates will be like roughly the same, right?
Yeah, interesting.
So like probably August or late July for Wave 5, and then December or late November for Wave 6. Those are my guesses.
Well, now we have new characters to look forward to too.
Now we have
that
new
we know
characters.
That's a possibility.
That's right. And there are like 5 question marks on that board now. Are we going to get them all, or are they just going to do like one each time? Like, who knows?
Will they leave question marks on the board, like kind of what happened with Mario Maker 2, where it looked like there was space for it?
I can't even talk about that.
There was space for another like type of game, and then it just never appeared.
I mean, also, as this wraps up, and it could be like all the way to the end of the year, basically, if this takes us. But that like. This very like cleanly took the place in the sort of like Nintendo update like consciousness that was occupied by Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's fighter packs, right? So like as soon as they were done talking about the last character, as soon as they were done talking about Sora coming to Smash, then they could be like, now we've got new carts for Mario Kart, and you guys can talk about that for 2 years. And then what? Like, is there another thing that they can like regularly update that people are playing? Is it more Mario Kart? Or is it a game that comes out between now and the end of the year? Like,
Right.
what will take this place?
Yeah. As we're like talking about this stuff, I'm of not to beat to death the discussion about like what comes after the Switch, but it's such a
Yeah.
like because the Switch continues to sell not as well as it did at its peak, but still really well. Like this year, this next fiscal year, current fiscal year, whatever, they're expecting to sell like 15 million or something.
Yeah.
And there's all this, sales seem like they've been strong around Tears of the Kingdom and like all that kind of stuff. You're like, well, people are just picking up the system now, and they're still selling a lot of them. So how do you transition to the next hardware without burning the people that are like
Yeah.
just bought it like 9 months ago?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question.
But the reason I bring that up is because with the release of Tears of the Kingdom, with the Booster Course Pass like coming to an end, and like you said, it kind of filled that spot that the Fighter Pass for Ultimate did. It does feel like, in some ways, like we're getting to the end.
We're getting to a possible end.
We're getting to a possible end, but yeah, it does feel like, well, it makes sense that there's going to be another thing to kind of fill that void.
Right. Well, and it's also not totally un-Nintendo to have that last thing and then not put out the new console for like 2 years, right?
Right.
Like, it is possible that we could be approaching like the end of Nintendo making big new games for the Switch because they're finishing projects, lining up projects for whatever comes
right.
next.
And it also would not be un-Nintendo like for them to do like 2 of something and then just be like, and like we're done. Like with the NES Classic Edition and the SNES Classic Edition, they're just like,
or the Game & Watches, they did one
Right.
for Mario and then one for Zelda, and then we're like, we're fine.
yeah. So maybe after Mario Kart Booster Course Pass, or
I bought all 4 of those things.
they'll just be done. Before we move off of DLC, I
Yes.
did want to look up what like Side Order's deal was.
Yeah.
And this is what we know.
Okay.
Is that the story mode takes place in what has become of Inkopolis Square, the main hub of Splatoon 2, in what would have happened if Team Order had beaten Team Chaos, which is the opposite of what actually ended up happening.
So it's a what if scenario?
Yeah, apparently.
Whoa.
Maybe it's like a side jump.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, like in Lost.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and also that's not what that ended up being, but
But it seemed like it could have been,
it seemed
and
like
that
it
would have
could've
been cool.
and it would have been really cool. I would have really liked it so much. So yeah, I mean, but like we really don't know anything.
No, I think that's it.
That is really it. And also no idea when it will come out.
Right.
All right. So that's all we got for like big DLC for stuff. It's possible that I think the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC is done and out already.
I also think that's
Okay.
true.
Good, because I neglected to look it up. Mark, we also have reason to believe that there are more games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online, the Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy libraries, because Nintendo told us that these games were going to be coming out. I guess they didn't strictly say within the year 2023, but like if not then when, you know?
Yeah. And I would have felt way more confident, like, oh yeah, these are all coming in 2023, if they didn't keep surprising us with unannounced games for these.
Well, that is the most confusing part, because we're going to list like 15 games, and these are all games that we've known about, and they're just like releasing other games instead in front of them. So let's go through the Nintendo 64 games first, and we'll pause on any of them that we care to comment about. Harvest Moon 64. Actually, we'll just lay them all out and then talk about them collectively. Harvest Moon 64, Mario Party 3, Pokemon Stadium 2, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excite Bike 64. Are there any? It is interesting to me that like both Pokemon Stadium 2 and Mario Party 3 are just like the next step in like the next iteration in games that are already available on the Nintendo 64, Nintendo Switch Online. So I'm not super excited about either of those, but I've never played Excite Bike 64
I haven't either.
or 1080 Snowboarding.
Oh, really? I had 1080 snowboarding.
I've not played either of these, and I know they're both like kind of Nintendo 64 staples.
Yeah, I know nothing about Excite Bike 64. 1080 snowboarding, I really wonder how that holds up.
Probably not well, but like,
Probably not well.
but here's the thing: I want to play both those games like I did Wave Race or Pilot Wings, where I'm like, wow, this is really weird. Let me see if I can actually like get through some of this, and then like play for a little bit, hit a wall, and be like, no, I can't, and just have like a fun afternoon with them.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like Harvest Moon 64, on the one hand, it's like, oh, that would be cool to experience.
Yeah.
And I bet the music is great. But on the other hand, I bet it is so slow
Yes.
and clunky and
Yeah.
annoying to control.
And I bet it looks bad. How could it not?
How could it not?
Yeah, so that's a a weird mixed bag, but also like, where are these games? And then we're not doing speculation right now, so any speculation about the libraries we'll save for after we go through everything that we do know. But honestly, where's Donkey Kong 64 and where's Diddy Kong Racing?
Diddy Kong Racing will be very interesting to see if it ever shows up. I hope it does. But Donkey Kong 64 feels like Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 to me, where they love for whatever reason to withhold Donkey Kong from us.
Yeah, they love to withhold it, and then they love to make a show of no longer withholding it.
Uh-huh.
Right? Anyway,
Look how much we love you. Here's Donkey Kong 64. How could you doubt us?
don't you love me a little bit more now? The Game Boy Advance library, here are the games that we presume will be coming out at some point this year. But in both of the expansions that they've done to this, they've released games that are not on this list. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Fire Emblem, F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Golden Sun, and Fire Emblem The Binding Blade.
For me, the only ones of these, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, my love for Kirby grew leaps and bounds when we did Kirby Month.
Right.
And so I never played Amazing Mirror. And
You didn't mess around with Amazing Mirror?
I don't
I
think
bought
so.
it on the Wii U.
Oh, uh-huh.
So I was playing around with it a little bit. It's kind of Metroidvania-y. It's fun.
I can't remember if that was one that I watched you.
We played a lot of Kirby
We did,
games.
yeah. Okay, but yeah. So Amazing Mirror, I'm interested in checking out, and then F-Zero Maximum Velocity. F-Zero is a series that doesn't really mean anything to me, but I think this is the one that has really kind of like anime, like comic book panel-esque
I think that's
cutscenes.
the GT one.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the other one on Game Boy Advance. But that raises an interesting question because F-Zero has that like natural like second game in the series that's on the GBA. Also, Golden Sun. Like,
Right.
where is the second Golden Sun game? Are they planning to release that too? Because they were sort of like companion pieces.
Was the second Golden Sun game on DS?
No, there is a like dual age or something on DS, but it's like Golden Sun. I forget the name of the second one, but it's like a Gaiden story. It's the same story as the first game, but from a different character's perspective. And then it does the thing where you can like enter a code after finishing one to get more content in the other.
Got it. Okay.
So it would be weird for them not to release them both, is what I'm saying.
What about you? Are there any of these that particularly pique your interest?
I mean, I have a lot of these games on my Wii U. But yeah, I would love an opportunity to start another one of these Fire Emblem games again and then quit halfway through. And look, people keep telling me that Golden Sun is great. I'll try again when it's available on my Switch, and maybe that'll be the key to like unlocking it for me.
Okay, so Maximum Velocity, that F-Zero game, is the first one that was on Game Boy Advance?
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, and then GP Legend
GP Legend
is the second one. But GP Legend, there is no... what I was trying to look up is there is no F-Zero GBA game on Nintendo Switch Online right now.
Correct.
This would be the first one.
Right.
I wonder if I would like this better. I tried playing the Nintendo 64 one and
Famously said it looks like butt.
yeah, and did not care for it.
Mhm.
But I, enjoy the Super Nintendo version. So I wonder if I would like the Game Boy Advance one more than the Nintendo 64 version.
We should fire up the Wii U and you can give the GP whatever it's called a try.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, bring more Game Boy Advance games. These are all fun to check out. Then last up is the Game Boy, and the following games are on that list: Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Seasons, Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Ages, the Pokemon trading card game, and Kirby Tilt and Tumble. Any thoughts on any of those?
I guess Kirby Tilt and Tumble. The other ones, I don't feel the need to play.
We played a little bit of one of those Zelda games,
Seasons.
a couple of years ago, for the Super NPC Games Club, and
Which I think they're releasing
Oh,
on
yeah.
their on a free feed right now. So if you want to hear that, I think you can.
or in a couple weeks.
Yes, when they release it.
When they release it, and we'll be posting about it and sharing it and stuff. But yeah, I don't love those games. And I was always kind of holding out hope for them getting the Link's Awakening treatment and like having a remake in that way, which I absolutely would check out. But as they are, like, I kind of am not interested in attempting them again.
Yeah.
All right, ready to move on from, and I'm never going to turn on the Pokemon trading card game. Not in a million years. All right, next up, we've got third-party games that we know are coming to the Switch. First, those that have dates. And a lot of these are, if not Switch exclusive, are at least like tied to sort of Nintendo's marketing cadence. We've seen them in directs or whatever. So the Etrian Odyssey Origin Collection is coming out on June 1st.
Front Mission 2 remake is on June 12th.
Crime O'Clock is
Great
out
name.
June 30th. Again, the sequel would be called Crime 30.
Master Detective Archives Rain Code is June 20th.
The Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, June 30th.
Excited for that one. Disney Illusion Island, July 28th.
I'm very excited for Disney Illusion Island. I hope that's good. Samba de Amigo Party Central is due out on August 29th.
Super Bomberman R2 is September 13th.
And my Bomberman theory is falling apart every week that we get closer to its
Well,
release.
we'll get into
All right.
predictions.
We'll get into predictions later. Mortal Kombat 1 is coming out September 19th.
And then the Switch port of Hogwarts Legacy is now dated for November 14th.
Allegedly.
Allegedly,
We'll
yeah.
see. We'll see if that game ever comes out on Switch. And then we have a third. Oh, do we want to talk about any of those games? I think we kind of weighed in on them as we went. Then we have some third-party games with no dates. Lord of the Rings Gollum, which is coming to other platforms soon, imminently. I just have in May in our notes here, and we're almost at the end of May. And the Switch version of it was delayed. I'm sort of interested in this game, but I think from like a removed academic level, I want other people to tell me what it's like.
Right, yeah. Batten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD remasters coming sometime this summer.
Also interested in that, like, but I don't think in a way where I'm ever gonna put hands on sticks.
Yeah, I can't imagine I do. I'm not going to lie to you. I could 100% see myself buying this and then never playing it.
Mm-hmm. Deca Police, which was that really cool looking game in the last
Right.
direct.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna take a leap on that. We have no date or even a window for that.
Dr. Fetus's Mean Meat Machine, which is a spin-off of Super Meat Boy, right?
Right, and it's basically doing the Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine thing. So it's Puyo Puyo, but in the world of Super Meat Boy. And then Flashback 2 is coming out October or November. It was hard for me to find reliable dates. I like the first Flashback. I would be interested to see what they do with a sequel.
And then Rift of the Necrodancer, which was recently announced but has no date other than 2023.
And because we had that great email from a listener who suggested Rift of the
Donkey Konga?
Rift of the Donkey Konga, I keep thinking that I'm gonna love this game, and I have no actual evidence of that. I just want to play Donkey Konga again. And then sort of the last category of things that we have down the line, these are almost more question marks than they are like actual like weighing in on actual things. But E3. Oh, these are all events. So E3, which doesn't exist, but obviously PlayStation just had a big showcase. Microsoft has one next week, I believe. Is Nintendo going to do a big presentation this summer?
Right. Yeah. It is the summer of games.
Right?
And so
Every summer it is.
And so, yeah. What do you think?
I think no. I think we are in a thin year for Nintendo, despite the fact that they, the huge successes that we already mentioned.
Right.
So I think they're going to have to do one in September, a direct in September, which is the next sort of event that we have on here. They've done a September direct most years for the last decade, and I believe that they'll have something for that, and maybe we'll have a like Pikmin 4 direct that's like 15 minutes, sometime like the end of June. But I don't think we get like a full Nintendo Direct this summer.
Yeah, I think you're right. Do you think I do think it's possible that if they have like um minor release, I guess I'll say, I don't really know what that would look like. Like in the past I would like that it could be a Twitter reveal,
Yeah,
right? Like
sure.
I feel like they could have something maybe in before the direct in September, or like a late August game that is, I'm going to say, on like Paper Mario tier. I don't think it's like a Paper Mario game, but like something of
Right.
that caliber
Right.
that you could not announce it in a direct and it would be fine.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like, I had kind of a tough time making predictions, which we're about to get to, because so many of like the Nintendo things have already gone on Switch.
Right.
Like, and the things that haven't are those that are just like, sorry, never coming back. Or if it is, it's a surprise, right?
Right.
Like Kid Icarus, my God, F-Zero.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I guess we would have said that about Metroid, before Dread came out. So like, this company exists to surprise us, and we exist to try to predict it, which is a fool's errand. The last event that we have on here is the Nintendo Live, which is also in September. I don't know if that messes with like my prediction that there will be a direct in September, but like it just feels weird.
It does. It also makes, because like you said, usually there is a direct in September.
Yeah.
Plus there's Nintendo Live. I don't expect the two to be like related at all.
No, not at all.
And I don't really feel like they would step on each other's toes.
I guess that's a good point.
Because like Nintendo, I think things from Nintendo Live, like if they do like something on the level of a Kirby concert,
Yeah.
or anything that, or the like World Championships for Splatoon 3 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I
Right.
think those are the ones that are happening there. Like something of that caliber has like really minor, Nintendo will tweet about it, but it's
Yeah,
not really
sure.
something that they're gonna blast on all channels. And so if they had this in September and then just a few weeks later something had to direct, it doesn't really feel like
That's true.
they would be in conflict.
Well, and I don't have the exact dates here, but I'm pretty sure the Nintendo Live is early in September, right? And the September directs are sometimes near the end of the month. So like, one could definitely
Yeah,
get
it's
out of the
literally the beginning. It's September 1st through
Okay,
4th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they could definitely get out of the way of each other for sure. Mark, that's all that we know about Nintendo's 2023 and really anything going forward, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't have any. I mean, I guess if we're saying like what other long distance thing, Metroid Prime 4 is the only other
Yeah, but there's nothing
imminent.
like, or dated. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing like, oh, this thing was announced for 2024.
Right.
You know, there's nothing like even looming like that.
Right. And it was weird in this PlayStation showcase from this week. There was a lot of 2024 on that, right? Like they're staking their claim to a lot of games coming out in the next year and a half. And Nintendo's just not in that mode right now. Nintendo's like, we'll talk about July. Anything further than that, we gotta keep it buttoned up. Mark, we've come up with a couple different predictions here. I have 5 predictions.
I have 4 I feel fine about.
Okay, great. Let's do this. I'll go first then because
Okay.
I have one more than you. My first prediction is that long rumored Donkey Kong game from the like main Mario team at Nintendo is real and comes out this fall into winter. Like it's an October,
like do you think
November
that's like
game.
the big? Because I feel like the Nintendo is going to have something for the holidays.
They have to have something for the holidays, and I think that could be it.
Yeah.
And I think like riding the wave of the Mario movie where Donkey Kong plays a big part.
And rumored to have his own like spin-off movie or series or
Absolutely,
something.
yeah. Yeah, why not? Let's raise that monkey's profile. And it is just, I mean, I know, is it a 3D game? Is it 2D? Does it involve any of the like extended Kong cast, or is it Nintendo sweeping all that under the rug?
Man, whether I think it'd be cool if this game turns out to be true. I think it'd be cool if it incorporated some of our known Kongs. But every night, I hope and I pray
Mm-hmm.
that Nintendo introduces new Kongs to us. Because
Right.
if there's one thing I crave,
you pray this prayer out loud.
yeah, it really bugs my husband.
Well, and also you call our shared phone line.
Yeah, that's right. The
So
one we
I have
have.
to hear the prayer too.
That's right. I call it from my personal line, not
That's
our
right.
shared line.
That's right.
But yeah, I want just some really kooky,
Yep.
crazy new
Yep.
Kongs. Like, I don't see. Here's the thing. I don't even know. Big ears. I'm trying to think like what you could give them. You have long arms. What else do you do?
I mean, there's also like personality things that they can have, right? Like we can explore other aspects of them. It's not just physicality. Swanky
Well,
Kong is just a normal Kong, but like he's like a game show host
Well,
or
yeah,
something.
he has the clothes.
He does have the clothes.
You know, I
that's
feel
true.
like yes, I agree. Give us this like give us, or oh my gosh, Genius Kong, like Einstein hair with the big brain.
Oh my gosh, give me Genius Kong.
I just want new Kongs. That's all I want.
I want an Oppenheimer Kong. One who's brooding over
That's
over
right.
the weight of the power of his inventions.
Yeah, he created like the Kong Kingdom equivalent of the atomic bomb.
Right, some sort of like banana atomizer.
Yes. And you're right. It was just like, have I gone too far? Cannot rest in peace
That's
anymore.
right. I am become K. Rool, destroyer of bananas.
Well, that is making me think of Dr. Strangelove, and that is making me think that, oh yeah, can we have like a Kong Stanley Kubrick, who's like a real auteur?
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah. Where is Artsy Kong?
And it really, he works for years on like a Kong Napoleon movie that never gets made. They threatened to make it into a KBO. That's the equivalent of HBO
Yeah, yep,
miniseries.
there we go. I love it.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pitch my take for the for Nintendo's holiday game as well.
Great.
And this is, I think, a perennial for me. I make this prediction at least once a year, and eventually, possibly, it'll be true.
I love that for like any other company, like that kind of thing is probably right. That like you predicted enough times it will happen. Nintendo, there's no telling.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that we are due a new 2D Mario, like Super Mario Brothers platformer.
Yes.
And I think my prediction is that it happens this year for the holidays, and I think it drops the new branding.
Yeah.
I literally think this is my prediction that I've had for the past like 5 years. But I was looking at it, and like the Super Mario Brothers series existed from 1985 to 2006
Mhm.
when New Super Mario Brothers debuted. And then you had this like new Super Mario Brothers branding for
But-
all of their like 2D platformers.
Yeah, but at the time that New Super Mario Brothers came out, the Super Mario Brothers franchise had been kind of dormant for a while.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But so yes, that's true. Well, yeah, when was like the last Super Mario Brothers release? Super Mario like
World.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like Super Mario Brothers as a game franchise did not exist that long, and even if you count it up to 2006, that's 21 years.
Right.
And at this point, so new from the new branding from 2006 to now is 17 years. And at that point, you're like, why are we still calling this new? Most like
Yeah.
a huge portion of people who have played these games are only familiar with these this new like Super Mario Brothers world and
right.
aesthetic.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean it's a great point, and like there hasn't really been a new Super Mario Brothers game in a long time, right?
Right.
The one that came out on Switch a couple of years ago, even now, was the one that came out on Wii U
Uh-huh.
like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that branding. First of all, I remember when it came out being like, I can't believe they're calling this new. It won't always be new. There's a point where it will be old. And we're at that point now. We're past that point now. So yeah, I totally agree with you that. But does that mean that you think they will find a different branding?
I don't know. I feel like yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know. I feel like the aesthetic I don't think that they will necessarily reinvent the aesthetic, because I feel like unless they're prepared to do that franchise wide, because like new Super Mario Brothers kind of staked their place in the ground to be like, this is what these characters look like when rendered in 3D, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, the world of Mario looks like this.
Right.
And they have followed that pattern ever since. Like,
well, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is it the movie look?
I think,
or is that too similar to the new look?
No. What I think the movie look. I think the movie exists in its own like fork.
Yeah.
But that would be that'd be interesting. But no, I think it'll look like new, but it won't be called the new series anymore.
Got it. Do you have any like ideas for like hooks, or is it just like you're waiting for Nintendo to surprise
big
you?
ears?
Sure.
I don't know.
All right. Yeah. Great. I also have a Mario prediction that I will throw out now. It's that a new Mario game is revealed in September, but is so far down the road.
Oh, sure.
They're doing like the tease here, right? Where it's like, here's a new Mario game. Maybe it's 3D, maybe it's 2D, whatever, but it is something ambitious and big. And there's something about the trailer or the footage of the game that we see that makes us go, that's not running on Switch.
Whether that's true or not?
Whether that's true or not, there's something in there where we're like, there's no way that this is on Switch. This is coming to whatever comes next. Some like icon in the corner of like a controller we don't recognize.
Right.
Or like something where we're like, this is cool. This is a promise of not only a new Mario game, but something bigger on the horizon.
Mario's ears are too big.
Mario's ears are too big. They can't do it on the Switch.
No, I'm sorry. I'll stop. That's the end. Very good.
So what do you think about that? Is there any chance that even like abstractly or glancingly that Nintendo's going to reference the new system this year?
I think it is possible that we get. Well, and this is just kind of going by the Switch playbook.
Yeah.
If they are ready to talk about hardware by the end of this year, like the next generation, then I don't know if they do have a big holiday game.
Yeah.
Like,
I totally
agree.
Like
maybe it is just like we saw for the Switch, like a tease in October or something, and then that's pretty much what you're getting until they're ready to actually like reveal it. I feel like if they show a big new Mario game, my assumption would be it's going to release on Switch.
That's a fair point. But it could also be well, I don't know. I mean, it's I just think that like if they release a new Switch or new hardware of any kind, that it has to be able to play Switch games.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
But like, is that true? Like, I think it's true, but like the Switch started at 0. It started with no games carry over from anything.
But I think that was like because it was a true reset.
Yeah.
And the way that I mean, you're right. Anything could happen. It could absolutely be the case where nothing carries over. The Nintendo Switch Online libraries like start over. But it totally it would not shock me if that happens.
Yeah.
But the way that they're talking about like Nintendo accounts, it just feels it would be it'd be really I'd be very surprised if that turns out to be the case.
It also seems like it would be a super bad move.
Yeah.
Right? Like I guess part of the reason that that you can play all of your Wii games on the Wii U is that the Wii was super popular and they didn't want to leave that audience behind. You don't have to carry over Wii U games to Switch because that platform wasn't popular. The Switch is super popular.
I also feel like they have the success of PlayStation like 4 and the transition to 5 to kind of look to where in early launch periods when your system doesn't have a lot of games, it's your new system doesn't necessarily have like a lot of games on it. That's a great way to bridge the gap. You have maybe enhanced versions of games that existed on your previous platform. And it hasn't hurt PlayStation 5. Like, yeah, the enthusiast press and people, are like people who care about the tech want like exclusive games that take advantage of the cutting edge technology in a new. But like,
and we're starting to get there now.
We are, but like regular consumers, I think are super happy that they're able, that like for cross-generation games, like I don't feel like it hurt them. And so if I know Nintendo does its own thing, but I think they have an example of what success can look like
Right.
in cross-generational launches.
But you also have to remember that as far as handhelds are concerned, they've always done backwards compatibility.
Yeah, that's also true.
Game Boy Color obviously could play Game Boy games. GBA could play Game Boy games. The DS had a whole separate like cartridge slot so it could play Game Boy Advance games and probably Game Boy games. I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
And the 3DS can play DS games. So like they've always done it where their handhelds are concerned. But yeah, just not always with the home console stuff.
Yeah.
But the Wii could play GameCube games and the Wii U could play Wii games. So maybe that is a foolish fear to have. But I just badly don't want them to cut off
Oh, completely.
the new hardware from the old library. I think you're up.
Okay. Maybe I said this when we were talking about directs and like what'll happen in June. But one prediction I think is we're going to see what we saw last year, which is a partner showcase in June, but no first party direct.
Yeah, I think that is well, I think there will be a first party direct that is just Pikmin. You know, a short little guy. But yeah, a partner showcase seems totally plausible. Do you think there's any universe where like they learned their lesson from last year when they did a partner showcase and it was like, I mean, I guess the partner showcase went pretty well last year.
Yeah, my memory is that it was pretty well received.
Yeah, and that we enjoyed it. We had fun.
I think so.
So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I think I keep having flashbacks to the partner showcase from 2020.
Oh yes, I do think
Which
they
was,
learned
like,
their lesson from
the
those.
worst.
I do think they
It
learned.
was like 4 games.
Yeah.
One of them that was like a wrestling game. Yeah, it was not.
Well, by the end of 2020, you know, like for a while in 2020, we were getting towards the end, we were getting something. It seemed like every week, you know,
Yeah.
that they were like clearing the channels. But some of those, I can't remember what the partner directs or whatever they called them were
Right.
like dire.
really, really.
And I
dire.
do think that they learned their lesson from that.
Okay, so maybe we'll get some partner showcases this year that are not nearly that dire. Or in June we'll get something like that. Pretty good prediction, pretty safe prediction, I gotta say.
Yeah,
Here is a not safe prediction.
love it.
Why not position Wario as, look, if we are in a mode where we are like loading up with like things that already exist, the Switch's library, let's go Wario. I'm not saying we need a new Wario Land game, although I would love it. Put Wario Land Shake It on
Yes.
there as a port. Like all the motion control that thing had from the Wii was just shaking, and you can shake every Switch controller. And it's a great game. It's super fun. It's beautiful. I'm sure that those sprites, because they're like hand drawn, like cartoon style sprites, I'm sure they would up-res to HD beautifully. I want to see that. But then also, there's a bunch of Wario Land games that aren't on the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance Nintendo Switch Online libraries. We only have Wario Land 3 right now. There's Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land. There's Wario Land 2, which is on the Game Boy Color / the Game Boy. Kind of depends on what territory it was released in, which system it came out for, and Wario Land 4 for the Game Boy Advance. So they could really like make a run at positioning a bunch of Wario games that are good and like sort of in line with what they're already doing, but just being like, this is the Winter of Wario.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the Winter of Wario. That'd be so
Give me
good.
a Winter of Wario.
That'd be so good.
And why is there no new Wario Land game on Switch already? Like that is just a separate question.
Yeah, and I mean we were talking about like what franchises could even be on Switch at this point that haven't had entries yet. I feel like Wario Land is one of the few.
It's a big one. I think another one is Star Fox. I don't have a prediction.
Oh
on it,
yeah,
but,
I don't
like,
have a prediction for Star
where's
Fox either.
Star Fox?
Well, here's a prediction for another game that I think I would love to see fill the second half of Nintendo's year, and that's a new Famicom Detective Club game.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do a couple on-brand predictions right here, back to back. I think.
I think that the the remakes of the first two Famicom Detective Club games, I think were successful for what they were. And I would absolutely love a brand new third entry in that series.
Yeah, no, I would love that. I really enjoyed our time playing those first two games, The Girl Who Stands Behind and The Forgotten Heir. Got them both. Yes. um and yeah, give me another one and like develop it with modern sensibilities so that I don't have to play it with a walkthrough next to me.
Right.
Um but yeah, like the characters in those are always fun. The art is beautiful. And the music's great. So yeah, I would love another one of those. What do you think it would take for there to be a like? I guess whatever it took for them to be remade in the first place.
Right.
Already a miracle.
Exactly. So it's like they were remade. Presumably, they have like they've done a lot of the work. It feels kind of like, and this is totally just wish fulfillment, but with the remake of Samus Returns,
Totally.
right, of Metroid 2, and then hey, we've done kind of like the work in getting up to speed on how to make one of these games,
Right.
and now we're prepared to go and make a new entry. And it's like, well, you've done all the work on getting up to speed on how
Yeah.
to make a Famicom Detective Club game, and
Make Famicom Detective Club Dread.
yeah.
I would absolutely love that. Mark, that's on your brand. Now on my brand. I've made this prediction slash like ask before, but some sort of Game and Watch like treasury museum, whatever you want to call it, that just has all the Game and Watches in it.
Could you see that being a new like system in Nintendo Switch Online?
I could, but that feels thin, right? Like
Especially if they were to like release them in drips and drabs. Like if you were going to
totally.
do that, it feels like it'd have to be the complete collection from the beginning.
Yeah, the complete collection from the beginning, and like anything you can do to like give context. The Game and Watch Gallery games on Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance are like pretty good actually at I mean, first of all, they have modern versions of all the games, which is cool, right? So like they're actually like a little bit more playable. Um but they do a nice job of like if you go into different like menus and stuff of giving you like historical context for like this thing came out in this year and like sold well in these markets or like inspired this is the first appearance of this, whatever. And it would be nice if some of that same curation was available as like a collection that just presented everything.
Yeah, that
And
would be really cool.
and it's because these games are also so hard and expensive. It's so hard to come by and so expensive right now. And like we have the Game and Watch Gallery 3 on the Game Boy, Nintendo Switch Online. Um, they could also release the other three, 1, 2, and 4. Um, but I would also really want to see SP versions of those that have all the games unlocked from the beginning, because there's a Legend of Zelda Game and Watch that was never released in Japan, and is part of Game and Watch Gallery 4, but the only way to access it is to get all the stars in all the games, and getting a star is getting 1,000 points, which means you have to get 1,000 points in the normal mode, the hard mode, the classic mode, and the classic hard mode of every game, which for some of those is like impossible. So it's almost like the game's not even on that card, but you can unlock it with an SP version.
Man, yeah, that would be really cool.
But mostly, forget the galleries. Just like make a new product that has them all presented in like a compelling way. I want to be able to play these games.
So I have one prediction left that I it's half formed. And it is, I think we are due for a third-party collaboration of some sort, a la Hyrule Warriors.
I love this.
Something like that. But I was going through, we have a list of Nintendo franchises that we often refer to, and I was going through, and it's like, I struggle to think like what new franchise could be used. Like
Yeah.
it makes sense to me that we would get another Hyrule Warriors. It makes sense to me that you could get another Fire Emblem Warriors, but I don't really know what like new third party collaboration you could do.
Sure. Well, so are you just thinking about like the
No, not like
okay.
not just a Muso game, but I
Right.
feel like those are the most successful examples that we have.
Yeah, well, I mean, like it's interesting because like the later, um, uh, the later F-Zero games were developed by Sega. And isn't one of the Star Fox games developed by Platinum?
Or Namco, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that might be right. We're doing this on the fly here. But yeah, like, why not let those developers that worked on those games a decade ago, 2 decades ago, take another crack at it?
Or just like not even necessarily those developers. Like, there's a whole generation of people who grew
Totally.
up,
Yeah,
like loving Star Fox, and I'm sure would love to take a crack at it. Maybe like sure, like in a like a Sonic Mania type way,
totally.
right? Where they're able to lovingly recreate it.
What can I ask this? What is the deal with Square Enix and Nintendo? Are they buds now or what? Because like,
I think Square Enix is so happy that Nintendo exists so they can put their like the what used to be like handheld,
sure,
like they're
yeah,
kind of like not B tier in a bad way, but like double A games.
yeah,
You know what I
totally,
mean? Where
totally.
they're not blowing out the budget because they are blowing out the budget on something like Final Fantasy 16. Is that
Yeah,
what we're on?
16 is right.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16, and so and they're able to like supplement, and those never's a long time, but like
never gonna come to
never going to
Switch.
come
Yeah.
to Switch, right? They're not built for that.
Right.
They're technical showcases that are primarily designed to appeal to Western audiences now.
Right.
But I think what is like funding the development of those is these like triples and doubles that they keep hitting on Nintendo
Right.
Switch.
And you're talking about like Octopath Live Alive, the other Octopath, the Triangle Strategy,
Right, exactly.
and Bravely Default 2,
Mhm.
right? The thing is that most of those games have now made it over to the other platforms, and Octopath Traveler 2 launched simultaneously on Switch and PlayStation, right?
Right.
So like, it's just so weird to consider that company's relationship to Nintendo, because like obviously they made Super Mario RPG, which was a huge collaboration between the two of them. But then there's also like a weird smattering of like DS and 3DS games that they made. They made that that Sports Mega Mix or Sports Remix or whatever,
Yeah.
and 3-on-3 Hoops. Which like, why do you get Square Enix of all people to make a Mario basketball game? It's so bizarre. The pieces don't make sense, but they're all jammed together. And just makes me wonder, like, why isn't there like another big partnership between those two companies?
Yeah.
Do you have any other like pitches for companies like Capcom?
I feel like Konami is ripe
Oh, there we go.
for, like they just announced today the Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta remake.
Metal Gear Delta Snake Eater is what they're calling
Oh,
it.
okay, yeah, Metal Gear Delta.
They're being as
Snake Eater.
confusing as possible.
But like and persistent talk of them wanting to, they announced a remake of Silent Hill 2, kind of like
Right.
get back into the video game space after very purposely leaving it. And I feel like there is such room for a collaboration with Konami on something, whether not necessarily that it's like Konami working on a Nintendo franchise, but like a new Castlevania game
On Nintendo.
that
yeah.
somehow like captured the spirit of even like Symphony of the Night, like like classic Castlevania, whatever that means anymore.
Right.
I think a collaboration with Nintendo could be super successful.
What's so interesting about that is like, I don't think Nintendo needs like publishing partners or like IP partners. They need development partners.
Yeah, totally.
Which is also what Konami needs, right?
Right.
So like, I would think that that's actually the least likely, that like if Konami gets hooked up with Nintendo, then someone else needs to make the game.
Right.
You know?
No, that's such a good point.
But yeah, who knows? But I do think you're right. I think we're like kind of past due for that now. And maybe that's because they are queuing up those relationships for the next platform or whatever. My final prediction here is some kind of new hardware announced this year, revealed this year, but not a new version of the Switch. Is that it's not going to be another Game & Watch. They're never going to do those again. But some other like physical thing, and I would count Labo or the Mario Kart home tour things, like something like that. They haven't done one of those in a while.
I bet that's such a good point. I wonder if it does make sense to me now that you're saying that if we're not getting like new Switch hardware or even like a variation or anything like that, that they would have something again in that September to like November time frame.
Right.
That is a new physical thing.
A new physical
that
thing
they are selling. Yeah.
Right. And like, I don't think it's as simple as like an amiibo or anything like that. We just got a new amiibo.
Yeah. Right.
With Tears of the Kingdom, and there'll probably be something for Pikmin, right? Maybe.
We know that the Pyra and Mithra amiibo are coming in July.
That's right. Hey, great point, and it wasn't on our list. And that Sora amiibo is never going to exist. But some kind of hardware. I think it's just been too long since they put out something physical like that.
Maybe it's WWD bracelets.
What would Wario do?
For the Winter of Wario.
I love that. I mean, maybe we get new power-up bands for Super Nintendo World that are Wario and Waluigi.
Oh, there you go.
Where were those, huh? Okay, those are our predictions. That's what we think might or maybe should happen for the rest of Nintendo's year. Genuinely, I have no idea.
Yeah, absolutely no clue.
All of my predictions feel less founded than usual. And I like to go, I like to go crazy on these things sometimes. I feel like we had nothing to grasp on.
And I feel like that's just the feeling right now that of like the rest of Nintendo's year is because we know so little.
Yes.
There is just nothing for us to, those regular tentpoles that we normally would be able to base our like kind of like thinking on don't exist this year.
Let me ask you this one question, then we can get out of here. Neither of us in our predictions brought up Metroid Prime 4.
It's because I still don't think it's that close.
Yeah, and I just think that's worth underlining that like that is an outstanding Nintendo game in that it is not here yet, right? Not that it's a statement of quality, just outstanding. That like we know or assume is going to come at some point, but neither of us are in a place where we even want to, for fun, predict that's going to come out this year.
Right.
All right, Mark, let's close this out. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you would like to email us what you think is going to happen the rest of this year, I'd love to have other people's perspective on this. I have no idea what anyone expects. I don't know what I expect. Email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, or get in that Discord and share your predictions there. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you to Connor McCabe, our 16-bit patron. We appreciate you, Connor. You can join the Discord, email us, and we will send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.